1992, your Prime Minister said Iran was 3 years away from building the nukes. That was 26 years ago. In 1995, he said Iran was 3 to 5 years away from building nukes. In 2009, he said they were 1 to 2 years away from building nukes. The boy who cried wolf had a better record with wolves than Netanyahu has with Iran's nuclear program. Why do you think you have any credibility, the Israelis, when you come and talk about Iran's nuclear program? You've been wrong for 26 years.
We're not wrong. Some things had happened in between. There were some who prevented Iran to rush for it. And there were some...
Come on, Dan.
There were some...
Every 2 to 3 years, Netanyahu issued a warning, and suddenly something happened to make his warning just inaccurate.
Well, I can tell you
You've been
that the Iranians themselves say that the international community is sabotaging their program. So things have happened. That's it.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Sabotaging their program. How many nuclear weapons does Iran have as of today?
Right now, I hope none.
Okay, how many does Israel have?
No idea.
No idea? You were in the government. They don't tell you that stuff.
No idea.
Who do they tell?
No idea. I'm telling you, I never discussed it. But it's irrelevant.
It's between... You never discussed Israel's nuclear weapons. You can say that hand on heart. You've never discussed Israel's nuclear... You're expecting us to believe that the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel never discussed Israel's nuclear deterrent? Seriously, then?
No. So let me tell you. No? It's not all slogans and sound bites, Mehdi.
Tell yourself.
I did not discuss Israel nuclear weapons. I did discuss Israel nuclear policy. There is a big difference.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So now we've got past that semantic evasion.
No, you have to...
How many nuclear weapons does Israel have? Because experts say it's anywhere between 80 and 400.
So what?
So what?
Yeah, so what? Has Israel ever threatened...
Do you recognize the hypocrisy of Israel having a secret, illicit nuclear weapons program that it won't open up its doors to and won't talk about, and then lecturing everyone else in the region about nuclear weapons?
Absolutely not. You know why?
You talked about hypocrisy.
I tell you. So let's start with the legal and formal.
Yeah.
Israel has never been a member, a signatory of the NPT, so we are not breaking any rules. Iran was, Iraq was, Syria is, and they all try to cheat.
Number one. We never recognized the laws in the first place.
No.
Okay,
secondly, Israel is the only country in the world who has been, threatened to just erase them. Has Israel ever threatened to erase and attack any country?
I think you'll find plenty of pretty genocidal statements from Israeli leaders.
Show it to me.
Shimon Peres said in response to Mahmoud Ahmadinejad that we could wipe Iran.
Iran has every day threatening to erase Israel.
I'm not talking about Iran. I'm asking about Israel's nuclear program.
Saddam Hussein said he would burn the entire country of Israel. Assad, Hamas. You know what? Even members of Israeli Knesset, Arab countries.
Danny, I'll ask again. We've gone off on a lovely diversion, which you're the master of. How many nuclear weapons does Israel have?
I don't know. By the way, another diversion, which I have to say.
No.
I have to say.
You can't pre-announce your diversions. Let me ask again. If an Iranian guest came on my show and I asked him about Iran's nuclear program, he said, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it. Would you be okay with that? You'd be outraged.
Of course
and yet you sit here as a former minister of the Israeli government saying, I don't know, never talked about nukes with anyone.
Because there was like 16 United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran.
And there is against Israel. And there is against Israel as well.
About
your nuclear program?
No.
Yes, there is. UN Resolution 487. Let me read it to you. The UN Security Council in 1981 says, calls upon Israel urgently to place its nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. Why haven't you done that?
Because... I'll tell you all why. Because we want to live and survive. This is the only reason. Live and survive.
But you are defying a UN Security Council resolution on your secret nuclear weapons program.
Live and survive. That's it.
Okay. Avi Schleim, when Danny talks about the threat from Iran, do you recognize that language? How big a threat, in your view, is Iran to Israel today?
Iran is not an existential threat to Israel, but it is a strategic threat. Now, let's compare the records of these two countries. Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has repeatedly attacked its neighbors. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has refused to sign. Iran submits to inspection by the International Nuclear Energy Agency. Israel refuses to submit. Iran has no nuclear weapons. Israel has between 75 and 400 nuclear weapons. So Israel poses an existential threat to Iran. Now,
Okay.
no,